Who's on top? Tommy!
And welcome back to season 2, episode 2 of Who's on Top. This is actually episode 44, but we're going to go the seasonal format. Very exciting. We have a great episode planned for you this week. The boys are back in quarantine, but we'll explain why. And it's because Jacob went to party in Atlantic City. And hey, speaking of Jacob, there's Jacob Katzenor, first row.
Guys, I am not going to Atlantic City. I have been
All right.
safe.
So then if it's not Jacob, it must be Ellis going to see his grandparents. Is that why we're quarantining the Russian machine?
That is not why we're quarantining. Yeah. Hey guys.
So if it's not that, is it Daniel Fox's birthday bash with Sophie Fox? Is that why we're quarantining?
What?
What?
You're such a strange kid.
Then if it's not that, is it Jeremy's simp trips? Is that why we're quarantining?
No comment, and that is not why we're quarantining.
It is not.
Well, there's a
Maybe it's
comment.
because we hear Percy in the background. He's giving us a good explanation about it. What's up, Percy?
Ugh.
Wait, he's coming.
There we go. Shout out to Percy Giles, our #1 fan. Anyway, we have an awesome episode planned for you this week.
I just want to say Percy's been partying. He's been getting all the female dogs. You know.
That's why we're quarantining. But no, we'll explain to all of you guys why we're quarantining this week at some point. But we have a great episode. A lot of NFL draft quarterback hype. Jeremy has some rants to do about that. Some poetry. A wacky sport of the week, as always, and of course, NFL Week 17 chaos. And that's actually what we're going to dive into first.
And let's move on to I'm going to steal Ori's job real quick here. Sorry, Ori, hijacking it. For our next segment, which is 2021 draft quarterbacks. A very interesting class. The whole class itself is just extremely offensive heavy.
But Ellis, go ahead, hijack my duties as host. I don't mind it at all.
Full hijack. No one's salty about it. Anyway, so this quarterback class is very, very interesting. This offensive class is very, very interesting. I got you, Dan. And so we picked here, and Dan's going to take it over from me in a second, but we picked here, I just want to preface it, 6 quarterbacks that we're going to rank in this class. They're all might go in the first, second rounds, but these are all very talented quarterbacks. And, of course, I want to preface this real quick by saying this doesn't mean that no other quarterback has a chance. Some names I'm going to throw out here and not discuss at all is Jamie Newman, Kellen Mond, Costello, KJ, I believe he's going to the draft, Sam Ellinger. These are quarterbacks, I don't think they'll be good, but everyone has a chance. Brady did it, so there's plenty of chances. But
typically, Michigan, baby.
Typically, that does not happen. So we're just going to focus on the 6 quarterbacks we think with the best chance of success. And I'm Dan. We'll start the quarterback second. Dan will focus on the teams.
Yeah. Okay. So you might disagree with me here, but I'm looking at the teams. So 32 teams in the league. I think 16 could realistically draft a quarterback in the first 2 rounds. But I think the only one that absolutely needs to draft a quarterback is the Jaguars. That's the only team that I say 100% they will draft a quarterback.
You can argue with the Jets. I think you can argue with the Jets.
Well,
but
yeah,
yes,
I can see a scenario where they want to keep Sam Darnold and get him some protection or a weapon.
I can just say quickly about the Jets. The Jets, they could definitely draft a quarterback, but they could definitely try to stick with Sam Darnold for another.
Yeah, that's so I don't want to say they're automatically at 2.
I also do think that if they did get a draft the quarterback, to get a good amount of value for Darnold.
Yeah, or for either. Whatever. Let's move on.
So that transitions me. So I put them in the group. So there's 3 teams that might give up on their young quarterback. So that would be the Jets, the Broncos with Drew Lock, who I think has been statistically the worst quarterback this year, and the Bears, who are interesting because Trubisky has played really well, but he's not what they wanted at 2, and he's kind of holding them back at points with his arm. Then there's the teams with the veteran quarterback they might give up on. That's the Patriots with Cam Newton, the football team with Alex Smith, the Panthers. I want to see another year with Teddy Bridgewater and Christian McCaffrey, but the Panthers could choose to go another way. And the 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo, he might be one of the biggest losers of this year, getting injured, playing terribly. So they might try to go the other direction. And this is the really interesting one. Teams with a declining aging quarterback. So they're besides the Lions, who I have on here with Matthew Stafford, or you might disagree with that. But the 3 teams, the Colts, Steelers, and Saints, they're all playoff teams in all likelihood. So they're going to be drafting at the end. There's some quarterbacks we're going to talk about at the end of the first round who could be interesting for them. And then sleeper teams. Jacob's not going to like me saying this, but the Giants. I mean, do they want to go back in for another chance in the first round to
I
get
mean,
someone if they don't feel Daniel Jones is going to the job?
The amount of times that Joe Judge has said Daniel Jones is our quarterback for the future, I see no shot of the Giants picking a quarterback.
Why they're a sleeper. Cowboys are interesting because you're like, hey, Dak Prescott, he's a free agent though. So let's see what they want to do. The Buccaneers of Tom Brady's 43. I mean, you can't go forward with Blaine Gabbert. Get someone. We're going to talk about high potential who's going to need a couple years on the bench, maybe someone like that. And the Rams. Jared Goff has been awful this year. He's holding them back. And the two teams I have notably missing on them, the Eagles, who I think they're either going to go forward with Jalen Hurts or Carson Wentz or maybe both. And the Dolphins, I mean, it's kind of a mess right now just for these last couple games with the whole Tua Fitzpatrick. But I think they either keep Fitzpatrick and have Tua learn another year or just go with Tua next year. I don't see them adding anybody new. Back to you, Ellis.
So yeah, keep all of that in mind when we're talking about it, because some of these quarterbacks we're going to rank, but there's different. Like Kyle Trask is nothing like oh my God, why am I blanking today? Nothing like a Trey Lance. So nothing. So keep that in mind when we rank our quarterbacks and debate them. But back to your Buccaneers point, I think like a quarterback like Jamie Newman, who's very has pretty much no playing time in a college, could work well for the Bucs. But we're focusing on 6 QBs, and our number 1 QB is. I bet you can guess it. It's not really up for debate. We're going to move on real quick, but you got to mention him. And he's going to the Jaguars. His name is Trevor frickin' Lawrence, the man. I mean, I'm to talk a few words on him. This man, I don't think it's actually even debatable if you watch college football, is by far the best college QB prospect since Andrew Luck. This is a clear shot number 1, the hair. He's got the speed. He can throw in the pocket. He can run out. He can make throws. His decision-making skills has been great. I don't know how much I didn't look at that closely about football till Andrew Luck, but I don't think he's been doing it for 7 years. I do not see a flaw in his game. I watching his team play. I mean, you look at his impact when he was out against the Notre Dame first when he was in. I really don't see any flaw in him, and I don't say that lightly. But I think we all agree here. I don't really care if you don't. I'm overruling you. So let's move on to my number 2, and this is where it's up for debate. And pitch in for what you think. I would make my case real quick. My number 2 is a quarterback out of The Ohio State University, a person who played 20 miles away from Trevor Lawrence in high school and had a very different career than Trevor Lawrence, but ended up like him as a highly regarded prospect. Justin Fields, Ohio State, runs a 4.62 yard dash. Now, here's why I'm going to pick Fields real quick. His athleticism is shockingly undervalued. Shockingly. 6'2", a 4-yard dash, 223, 6'3" actually lists him here. I thought he was 6'2". But either way, his speed and athleticism is great. Now, he's had some issues dealing with the blitz and in terms of making poor decisions with the blitz, and also pocket passing, going for it, not checking down as much as he needed. But these are, with a good team, easily fixable problems in my eyes. And he's dominated teams all year. He had a bad game against Indiana, but I mean, he rarely throws interceptions. He rarely, stellar high school and college resume, actually completely outdueled Trevor Lawrence in the in the showcase for before college. I forget exactly what it's called, but it's like the Gatorade showcase, and he outdueled Trevor Lawrence. He can run, he could pass. I think
the Elite 11. Is that what you're
what
saying?
Alila. Thank you, Jeremy.
Fun fact: I actually watched the one with Trevor Lawrence was in. I actually watched.
Yeah, so Justin Fields, people considered him better than Trevor Lawrence in that game. Not that Trevor Lawrence did bad, but 73% of his passes in 2020 for 1,521 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Add that to 5 rushing scores as well. Again, pocket passing and blitzing and dealing with the blitz can use some work. Number 2 for me. What do you guys think?
I think for me, I think I kind of agree with you. I mean, I think Trevor Lawrence, obviously, I'm not going to say more. He's clear number 1. I think Justin Fields, just because of the potential there, and I think the floor, he's played very well at Ohio State. He's been regarded, going into college, one of the best, kind of most highly recruited prospects ever. And he's very accurate, very athletic. I think he's a very good player. So I think he's my number 2 as well. With that said, I really do think the toss-up between him and Zach Wilson, just because I think Zach Wilson has frankly played a bit better in college. I know I know that Justin Fields has great potential, but he hasn't actually played that well this year. I mean, I
See, I
think
don't think that's true. He had one bad game against Indiana,
and
but
Northwestern.
other than
And
that,
Northwestern, he played
and I
pretty
think
badly
real
against
quick, well, Northwestern, yes, but Northwestern is a top defense in the league. And I think real quick, two things on Justin Fields that I forgot to mention. One, I hate the narrative that says, "Oh, he's not a winner. He got outdueled by Trevor Lawrence in the game in the semifinals last year." That's ridiculous because he played well that game. If you remember, he threw a pick, but he played well that game, and Trevor Lawrence just played insane that game. And on top of that, my comp for him is Deshaun Watson. That's all I was going to say. Go, Jacob.
I think
on Ellis. Who's your
Actually,
comp for Justin?
What comp? Deshaun
Your comp
Watson,
for
a
Justin
bigger
yeah,
Deshaun Watson.
I was thinking
All right,
Deshaun Watson, but I actually have another comp, Dak Prescott.
Yeah, that's a good
I
one
think
too.
in terms of
I
size,
think he's much
mo-
more mobile than Dak.
But Dak's shocking. I think that's actually
Dak
Dak's
wasn't he a running
relatively
quarterback at
no
Mississippi
no.
State?
But
But he could
Dak
run.
is more mobile than people give him credit for.
I'll go next. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence, clear cut number one, and he's been the best every year he's been in college. And in my opinion, he's the best quarterback prospects. And Andrew Luck came out of Stanford in 2012. No shot the Jaguars passed up on him at number one. After that, personally, I think Zach Wilson's the next best quarterback. He had a ridiculous season, and yeah, so did Justin Fields. But a big part of me putting Wilson at number two and not Fields is the shorter season that Fields had. He played what, 6 regular season games, Ellis, right?
Yeah,
I believe 6 regular season games.
seven,
Zach
six,
Wilson-
six, six, no, six, six, six,
Zach
six.
Wilson had an unreal Zach Wilson had an unreal season at BYU, and yes, it's BYU, but he still played against other good defenses and other good teams, and he had a crazy season. And a lot of my opinion goes to just not liking Justin Fields. I'm not a fan of his game. I personally don't like where the new NFL is going with all the running quarterbacks and stuff. And I prefer quarterbacks like Zach Wilson being my team. And I personally think Zach Wilson could definitely be drafted ahead of Justin Fields. I could see Wilson either going to Atlanta, where they're projected at number 4 right now. Other than that, I could see him dropping to 14 with the 49ers. And I really don't know where Justin Fields is going to go now that the Jaguars got the first pick, because I don't think the Jets are going to take a quarterback at 2.
I think the Jets should,
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah,
fair.
that's interesting because I was sorry to cut you off, but I was also thinking about Wilson at 4 to the Falcons, and I mean that's something we could. I don't know if I had them on their list, but yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if they go that high for a quarterback, but look, I think it's unfair to say Wilson Fields is just a running quarterback because he has very good passing stats. Maybe his arm strength isn't as equal to Wilson. I have Fields going. I think it's a high likelihood the Jets take a quarterback. I think
Who do you like better, Fields or
I think
Wilson? That's my
the thing
question.
about oh yeah, go ahead.
I
sorry.
like Fields better. I think
Okay.
I take those 6 games against elite competition better more over and last year over Wilson, what he did against Western Kentucky University, Texas State. Like he's
And
still
And
unsure.
if I could just quickly jump in about the Jets, I think whether we take a quarterback or not will all depend on what we get, right? Like, I think the one big concern with the Jets is that, and I think the thing about quarterbacks in general is a huge part of how they end up is how they're developed, right? Like, it's not a coincidence that later quarterbacks like Josh Allen, who was a tiny bit later, like Lamar Jackson, not that they're not talented, but a lot of it's that they have coaching staffs that can develop them, which is often why quarterbacks later in the first round end up better than quarterbacks in the first round, in the upper first round,
I
right?
think
So I think my only point is that there's a question of even we get another pick, we don't necessarily have like Justin Fields, we don't necessarily have the backbone of the organization to develop them and to make them be anything more than the next Sam Darnold. So would it be worth making us have that backbone to help Sam Darnold rather than just ruining another draft pick?
Yeah.
I just feel like I have my comp here of Josh Allen, big arm mobility, poise in the pocket. I just feel like he's going to the Broncos. I mean, he's from Utah, right? It's near Denver for all you geography guys out and girls out there. Um, but I just think John Elway, he's his kind of quarterback. And I think the Broncos are a pretty good spot with the running backs they have with Judy, with Noah Fant. They're going to get a defense back. So I feel like that would be a good fit for him at like 10 or so.
Yeah, I think they're picking at 10.
Yeah.
Another
All
thing
right, so
talking about
sorry.
Fields is that he's always been playing with the best. Like he's always been like Ohio State's it's one of the top football programs in the country. And yeah, he's really talented and stuff, but he's always had the best running backs in the nation and the best receivers and the best O-line and the best defense to play with. So think about that when you're looking at the Zach
Well,
Wilson.
I am okay. So I am thinking about that, but talking about playing with the best, Zach Wilson plays in the whatever the crap independent. Yeah, that one.
Yes.
And let's look at his games. He performed, and I think he throws a beautiful deep ball. And I think, and he's doesn't have mobility like run outside the pocket, but he has great pocket mobility and his great pocket awareness. He holds the ball too long, and I think the competition has something to do with it. I mean, he only played one good team and he didn't perform that well against them. Also, you got to remember BYU has a top 3 line in all of college football, and against teams that don't really rush, don't have good rushers. Let's see him against the NFL-sized rushers. We'll see what happens. Let's see him against NFL-sized quarterbacks. We'll see what happens. I guess I'm not entirely on Zach Wilson, though. The throwing is there. His decision-making, he holds on to the ball too long because he can. I think that's a bad trait to have as an NFL QB because you won't be able to hold on to the ball as much as he does. And a really good team, Coastal Carolina, is the only great team he played this year. And he had a great fourth quarter, good comeback, but the first 3 quarters were rather lackluster to a good defense, but not great defense.
No, I mean,
if I may-
Alex, I kind of disagree. If you're gonna measure a defense based on NFL standards, I think Coastal Carolina is one of the best. They're known as like the Swarm. They're super hype. They came kind of out of nowhere this year, and I think that the fact that you see this aggressive defense and he doesn't do anything against it, he puts 17 points up on the board. I think that's a testament to the fact that maybe he's not poised to play against good teams, and he does need to develop.
That's what I was saying. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
underlying thing that I think is gonna, it might not seem like it's gonna matter, but I think Josh Allen's trajectory is gonna make an impact on evaluating quarterbacks moving
Totally.
forward.
Yes.
When you talk about a small school guy, and not just small school, Wyoming, whoever's seen Wyoming play, and that he struggled so much in the first 2 years, but eventually the talent came through and he matured. So if you get there's been some character concerns about Zach Wilson. They're kind of unfounded, but if you get a guy who's willing to put in the work, who has the talent, and you put the right system around him, I don't think coaches are going to be scared of, or teams, I should say, teams are going to be scared of drafting these small school guys.
And-
Yeah, but
Oh wait, there's
wait.
one.
Yeah,
okay.
go ahead, Jeremy.
So the one thing I might say too is that I know we were mentioning that he holds on to the ball too long often, and kind of can use his big frame to kind of just get away with it to an extent. You know who?
Jeremy, he does not have a big frame. That's another criticism of him. He's 203. He's 200 pounds, only 6'3".
No, yeah, that's why I'm kind of reluctant to say that he's going to Denver, because Denver likes their big quarterbacks. They like
Yeah,
their
that's true.
Yeah.
6'8" guys.
But he's white and tall, so I mean.
I
just
know,
so I
but
can
he's
make
not
impression.
that tall, and he's a little undersized. Denver likes the pro style, like huge quarterbacks. You guys
Joe
remember?
Flacco.
Another,
Yeah,
another
Flacco.
thing
Oh, he's a
about
pro.
Denver.
Zach Wilson is a pro
Hold on.
style.
I
quarterback.
know he's a pro style, but he's not a traditional pro style. He's not like 6'8" looking over the whole pocket. He's a little bit
that's true.
undersized. He's a little undersized.
I mean, that's a
Here's-
stereotype, but it is there.
I
for a
know,
reason.
but you know what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
plus, if you're not looking at good competition, which is again Coastal Carolina, the one ranked team you face, you blow it. Jake, what's up?
Yeah. Another thing about Denver is I know Dan put them on the list of needing a quarterback, but personally, I don't think they do. Drew Lock was like his last year. This year he's not had the best year. He hasn't had Cortland Sutton, the Pro Bowl receiver. Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay have been injured in and out of the active roster.
I think, yeah, Jake, I agree. It's kind of like an off season for Denver.
2 years ago, Drew Lock was a dark horse MVP candidate.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can forget that. He was, Dan.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Was Drew
Yeah.
Lock?
Yeah, he was. He absolutely was.
Anyway, I think we should move on now to number 4, and I know this is going to be a debated one because this is the person with perhaps the most potential other than Trevor Lawrence, and he's my number 4 because of his potential. But he's only played one college game the last year. Had an amazing freshman year, unseen stats. Can run, can throw, can do it all. Trey Lance, North Dakota State, and here's why I have him at number 4. He would be higher if he played more games this year. He didn't, and he was lackluster in the one game he played this year. I want to admit it. He completed 15 for 30 for only 150 yards and 2 touchdowns and an interception. Not good at all. But he runs a 4.65, and it's not like, people used to think North Dakota State, small school. I remember Carson Wentz, but now they have 2 NFL QBs, a backup in Eason, not Jacob Eason, but he's a backup for the Chargers. I forget his name at the moment.
Easton Stick.
Thank you, Eason Stick, not Jacob Eason, and of course they have Carson Wentz, who didn't have the best season, but they show you they can produce quarterbacks. This team can produce quarterbacks. So you got that. Also, this is a little silly, but he's a basketball, baseball, and football star. That has something. He shows you he's athletic. He's competitive. He has a drive in him. Yes, the showcase game was not his best, but his 2019 redshirt freshman year, remember, redshirt freshman year, let's just remind ourselves, was 67 completion for 2,786 yards, 28 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and ran for 1,100 yards for 14 touchdowns. You can't deny those 2019 stats. You just cannot deny that. Because of that, great question marks. There are question marks, and that's why he's not higher for me, but he is higher than Mac Jones and Kyle Trask, which we'll talk about next. He is my number 4. He's got the arm. Decision-making is still a problem for him, as one would assume, since he's only had his true freshman season and 1 game sophomore season. But with the right development, he can be a star. I will say the one thing against him is that before I'll hand it over to you guys, is 1-year quarterback wonder kids so far have not been good. Recent people have been Blake Bortles, Mitch Trubisky, Dwayne Haskins, Deshaun Kaiser, Paxton Lynch.
Wasn't Joe Burrow also one year?
Joe Burrow was the one.
True, but Joe Burrow was. So you got, go ahead. You guys see what do you guys think of that ranking?
Personally, I don't have Trey Lance at 4. I have him at 6 just because of the super duper high risk. He has all the potential not to be as good as Trevor Lawrence, but I think he has the potential to be number 2 in this draft class of quarterbacks. But there's just such a high risk. I think he probably drops the lowest of all these quarterbacks, in my opinion, just because of the risk that comes with taking him. And when you're picking a quarterback now, you're picking for the future, and his future it's really up in the air. And I think the other quarterbacks have all shown that they can play at the college level, and he has not yet done that except for last year. But this year he had 1 game, and people want to see. So at 4, I have Mac Jones. He had a 74% completion percentage, which is very, very impressive. A 32-4 touchdown to interception ratio. He has a great deep ball, and with the 32-4 touchdown interception ratio, comes great decision making. And I think he's number 4 of these 6 quarterbacks. And I could see him going to the Pats. I think he'd be a good fit there. He's not the most mobile quarterback, but he's great decision making. He throws a nice deep ball, and I think as Dan said, the Pats are definitely in need for a quarterback, and I think Mac Jones could definitely fill that hole right there.
Yeah, but remember, there is one thing to say. Again, I think you mentioned it earlier, Jake, about Trevor Lawrence, or I think it was someone else maybe, or Justin Fields, you mentioned about him. He's been surrounded by talent like all of his career. Mac Jones, playing in Bama, it's hard not to get like you I don't want to say you get handed to you on a silver.
Looking at his receivers this year, looking at Devonta Smith.
Yeah, I mean, like I think he has like 400 yards more than anyone else in the league.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a testament to his quarterback, but it's also you have the best defense in the league. You have the best, you have the best defense. You have the best offense. You're surrounded by everything, talent, facilities. So that's kind of a contrast to like Zach Wilson. BYU is like, it's okay. Like, there's not much to do there. And what?
Mormontown.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like you're surrounded by football culture like Bama. So it's like,
yeah,
you're looking at Zach Wilson and Mac Jones, and they have comparable stats, but one has all the receivers, the defense, the facilities, and one is doing it out in Mormon country. Like, yes, the competition is different, but that kind of balances it out,
Yeah,
Danny, what do you have to say?
Yeah. Well, if I could just go back to Trey Lance for a second. This is someone who's going to need to sit for a couple years. I mean, I can't remember a first-round potential quarterback who's come into the league, if he does declare for the draft, with less experience than him. Like, if Ben Roethlisberger comes back for 1 more year, maybe the Steelers are a good fit. But to go to Mac Jones, I have him at 6. I think Ellis does too, but we'll get to him. I was looking at the stats, and there's someone who just jumped off the page that reminded me of, and I looked back. There's a quarterback at Alabama who had 30 touchdowns.
Don't tell me you're going to say A.J. McCarron.
A.J. McCarron. They look exactly the same. They wear the same number,
Jake
similar
Fromm.
profiles. So, I mean, I just don't see what there is with Mac Jones. I think he's just one of these solid, you know, winning quarterbacks who's more valuable in college and with his experience than he would be as a pro prospect. And he has so much around him. When you talk about Waddle, when you talk about Smith, when you talk about Najee Harris, those are 3 first-round weapons that he has to work through. Not saying he's not good, but the arm strength, it just doesn't, it's not comparable to the top of these guys. I don't think the ceiling is high for him. I mean, he looks like, to me, a 10-year backup. I don't know what's differentiating him from just like from AJ McCarron, who was a 3rd-round pick, bounced around the league, got a couple starts, but I just don't see the ceiling there with Mac Jones.
Yeah, I
Um,
have Mac Jones. Sorry, Jeremy, go.
If I may say something, so I think for me, between Mac Jones and like a Trey Lance, I mean, I think the kind of thing is that I think it all depends on floor versus ceiling, right? Like I think you'd argue with Mac Jones, yeah, but these people were things, right? Like 10-year backups. They like for sure had a place in the league, just a place wasn't necessarily as a starter.
Yeah,
But
but
either
when
a
you're
first
picking a
round
first or second round pick,
no,
you're not picking a
but let
10-year
me
backup.
let me finish my point. So my point is whether between these two, for me, how high they are on the list is going to depend what team I am, which is why I was kind of hesitant to make a list. Right? Like essentially, right, in my mind, first round quarterbacks are very much decided by where they end up. Right? So depending on how good your organization is, I think it depends on how good of a quarterback you want. Or how much you can do potential versus floor. Right? Like with that said, Mac Jones still has amazing stats. Who's almost has gone to Bama, which yes, I understand he's had a lot of help, but he's also it means something that you've gone to Bama in the first place. So I think for Mac Jones, for a team like the Jets, I choose Mac Jones over Trey Lance because they have no ability to develop a quarterback, right? Or for like the Jags, so obviously the Jags are getting Trevor Lawrence, but for like a Patriots that have shown a history of being able to develop quarterbacks, also with everything of Jimmy G, were able to develop him behind Brady. Obviously, Brady was developed into the best of all time, and or like a team with like the Steelers where you could rest a year, I'd say I'd have Trey Lance higher because there's more potential and I have the ability to harness that potential. So to me, I think that's what kind of decides what quarterback is higher depending on your ability to develop it. So you kind of need to be really kind of introspective to an extent.
I'll bring up my last quarterback now, but I disagree with Jeremy a lot. I have Mac Jones at 6, but I'm gonna bring in Kyle Trask, who's at 5 for me. Mac Jones to me, I totally agree with Daniel. Gives me average backup QB, great college QB vibes. He just doesn't like if his tape is good, and same with AJ McCarron. His stats were there, everything was there. His tape was good. Same with Jake Fromm. His stats were there. Mac Jones is a better arm than Jake Fromm. His stats were there, but his tape was good. It was good for college, and there's nothing special. And so the reason I have Kyle Trask over him is I actually think Mac Jones probably will end up being a better QB than Kyle Trask, but I can see a place where Kyle Trask is a starting QB, and why I have Kyle Trask as 5. And this will tie into why I think Jeremy's wrong in that evaluation of Trey Lance, Mac Jones is. Trask again has only been there for a year, but you remember he was injured 2 years ago, and last year was a weird year for him in terms of he had QB battles. So I'm going to chalk it up to being a weird year. Obviously, I don't have him that high because he's 5, but this year his pocket passing, of course, not very Broncos 6'5", 239. So he's got a good bit of weight on him. He's a big boy, but he's not a runner. But his pocket passing, his vision, his decision making has shown NFL quality level at this time. His tape looks good. And why I'd pick Kyle Trask, why I'd pick Trey Lance over Mac Jones is because if you're a team like the Jets, you can't say can't develop a QB. That's not how that works. You say, listen, I don't want Mac Jones, who's going to, if the Jets, let's say, hypothetically evaluate Mac Jones and Trey Lance the same as I do, which is definitely not, they don't. But my point being that you pick for the potential in the first 2 rounds. I'm not picking Mac Jones. He'll be okay. I don't want to pick a Teddy Bridgewater in the first round. I like Teddy Bridgewater. I'm trying to pick an Aaron Rodgers in the first round. You're not trying to pick a Teddy Bridgewater. Mac Jones, I think that's his ceiling. Teddy Bridgewater, I don't think that's even really his actual realistic ceiling. Trey Lance's ceiling, in my opinion, is Aaron Rodgers. I'm not saying you agree or disagree, but you're picking the player with the higher ceiling in the earlier rounds.
Yeah, I also have Kyle Trask at number 5. But I think one thing that Ellis, I don't think you mentioned is that his stats this year off the charts. Possibly the best quarterback season, I mean, since Joe Burrow last year.
Well, you can't say that because he had his bad game against LSU, so I don't think you can say that.
I know he did. But almost 4,200 yards, 43 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. That's ridiculous. In 11 games, like, that's mind-boggling. And I know like stats don't really matter, but also he is the frame, 6'5", 240. He's a big dude. And I think he has the body type to be an NFL quarterback today. But also it's just like he's a high risk quarterback again because he doesn't have that huge of a display in college. And he's had good team around him. He has Kyle Pitts, one of the best tight ends in the nation with his team. But potential fit for me, I could see him being Drew Brees' successor with the Saints in New Orleans. And I think he could develop under Drew Brees and Sean Payton for a year or two, and then be a pretty decent NFL starter.
Totally agree. Totally.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I worry about Trask. I mean, he is a pocket passer. There's nothing, you know, there's no real mobility there. There's some questions about the deep ball. Yeah, he's good in the pocket, but I really, divide these people, these quarterbacks into, okay, who's the franchise? Who can, if they're going to the Jets who have nothing, or a team like that, who can create things? Trey Lance, I feel like could create things. The top four, Fields, Wilson, Lance, and obviously Lawrence, they could create things with nothing, like we saw with Joe Burrow. But I feel like Trask and Jones, they really need weapons to succeed. That's why I think, it makes sense. I think the Saints is a good pick. I had Trask going to the Steelers. I was calling 6 guys. We don't have a lot of tape on them. Mac Jones 1 season, Trask 1.5 seasons, Trey Lance 1 season, Zach Wilson 1+. So it's really more picking quarterbacks is always a crapshoot, but even more this year because of the pandemic and because of the quarterbacks we have declaring for the draft this year.
All right, that is it for this episode. We do not have a wacky sport of the week. We'll get back to you on that next week with some good ones because this episode was very long, as you probably see if you're at the end of this. So with that, thank you for listening to episode 44, season 2 of our podcast. We appreciate it. Check back next episode to see who won round 6 of our predictions. Remember, I have 2 wins and 3 losses. Jeremy has a win, Jacob has a win, and Dan has a win. Jeremy has the other 2 losses. So thank you for listening. Subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Buzzsprout, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Check out our YouTube page. Also subscribe, follow, hit the notifications bell, all that good stuff. What you do with YouTube at Who's on Top. We post highlights there. They're actually pretty cool to look at, so you should listen to that. Instagram, Twitter, the vibes. That podcast for both, but Twitter has capital W, where Instagram is all lowercase because we like making things difficult for you guys. Sorry. And with that, I think that's it. I think that's it for the rest of the episode. Oh no, that's not it. We are going on a week break, so see you guys in 2 weeks.
Ori,
Have a great.
Ori, why are we all quarantined
Ellis,
now?
why are we
I gotta answer.
quarantining?
Ori, I think that's your answer. That's you, buddy.
All right. So after much deliberation, much talk, we have managed to arrange a boys' trip to the lake. We're all very excited to go. We're using Jacob's lake house, and it should be exciting.
Yeah, so we're gonna take a week hiatus. So have a great New Year. Hope you guys had a great Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. I hope you had a great holidays, happy holidays. Have a great New Year. Hope 2021 is better than 2020. As always, stay safe, stay healthy. Hope you enjoy your week and hope you enjoy the episode. And goodbye.